Somebody shout, I'm moving forward. Oh, come on now, say it like you mean it. I'm moving forward. I came to tell somebody today that the enemy is always trying to pull you back to what God has already pulled you out of. Have you ever noticed that as soon as you start healing, as soon as you start finding your peace, suddenly they come back? Somebody say they always come back. But listen to me, child of God, it ain't because they've changed. It's because they see you've changed. Let's break this thing down. Why do men return after no contact? Oh, I feel this right here. Somebody better hear me today. They see you thriving without them. See, when you were in the thick of it, when you were crying yourself to sleep at night, when you were praying for them, holding them up, making sacrifices, they didn't see your worth. They were comfortable with your presence, but blind to your value. But the moment you decided enough is enough, I choose me, something shifted in the atmosphere. The moment you stepped out of that toxic cycle and started healing, growing, and walking in your power, suddenly they notice. Why? Because some people don't recognize your worth until they see you can live without them. They took your kindness for weakness, your love for granted, and your loyalty is an expectation rather than a gift. But the second you detached, the second you stopped answering their calls, the second you stopped begging for the love you should have been receiving freely, their whole perspective changed. Now they see you out here flourishing. They see your glow returning. They see your smile getting brighter, your confidence rising, your peace restored. And don't be fooled. They may not say it outright, but they feel the void you left. They sense the shift. Because some people don't understand the weight of your presence until they feel the weight of your absence. And let me tell you something. It's not love that's drawing them back. It's curiosity. It's ego. It's the realization that you were a pillar of strength in their life, and now that pillar is gone. Some men return not because they've changed, but because they see you've changed. They thought you would always be waiting, always available, always open to picking up the pieces whenever they decided to walk back in. But baby, that season is over. You're no longer operating from a place of lack. You're no longer tolerating what doesn't serve your spirit. You're no longer giving energy to what drains you. And don't be surprised if they suddenly have all the right words. Oh, they'll say things like, I miss you, I've changed, I realize what I lost. But the truth is, they don't miss you. They miss the version of you that put them first at your own expense. They miss the version of you that would drop everything for them, that accepted excuses instead of actions, that believed promises instead of patterns. But that version of you no longer exists. Because when God heals you, he doesn't just fix you, he transforms you. And what used to move you no longer shakes you. What used to control you no longer holds power over you. And what used to bring you pain now serves as a lesson. So when they come back, and oh they will, stand firm. Remember who you are. Remember how far you've come. And don't you dare let the past steal the future God has for you. Oh, this one is deep. Somebody better hear me today. They realize they lost stability. See, a good woman is more than just a partner. She is a covering. She is a safe place. She is a foundation. When you were in their life, you brought peace where there was chaos. You brought prayers where there was uncertainty. You brought strength when they were weak. And they may not have acknowledged it when they had you, but trust me, they felt it when you left. Some people don't recognize the role you played in their life until they have to stand on their own. They don't realize how much you carried until you put the weight down. See, while they were out there thinking they could do better, while they were entertaining distractions, while they were taking your love for granted, they didn't see the spiritual, emotional, and even financial covering you provided. But the moment you walked away, the moment you stopped being their safety net, the moment you stopped praying for them, checking on them, holding them together, they felt it. Now things aren't flowing like they used to. Their life feels out of balance. Opportunities aren't coming like they once did, and they may not be able to explain it, but deep down they know something is missing. That something is the presence of a real one. That something is the favor that followed them when you were in their life, because the Bible says in Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. And let me tell you, favor ain't free. When you were with them, they had access to a level of grace they didn't even realize. Your prayers covered them, your wisdom guided them, your love stabilized them, and now that you're gone, they're seeing that what they had wasn't ordinary, it was divine. But listen to me, God did not call you to be somebody's lifeline while they treat you like an option. You were never meant to be the foundation for someone who refuses to build. You were never meant to carry someone who won't stand on their own. Yes, you were a blessing, but you weren't supposed to be burdened. Yes, you were a covering, but you weren't supposed to be covering up their inconsistency. And now that they feel the absence of your stability, they want to return, not because they truly love you, but because they love what you did for them. They love the peace you brought, the order you provided, the favor you carried. But here's the truth. You are not their Savior. God has given you too much wisdom, too much strength, and too much purpose to be someone's fallback plan. You were a gift to them, but if they couldn't see it when they had you, they don't deserve to benefit from it now that you've grown. So let them realize what they lost, but don't you dare go back to fix what God allowed to break. Oh, I feel this right here. Somebody better hear me today. They want what's familiar. See, people love comfort zones. They love what's easy, what's predictable, what doesn't require effort. And for so long, you were their safe place. The one they could always come back to, the one who would always pick up the phone, the one who would always understand, forgive, and make room for them. But let me tell you something. You are not their comfort zone. The problem is some men don't want to commit, but they don't want to see you move on either. They don't want to love you right, but they don't want anyone else to love you right either. They want to keep you within reach, just close enough to hold on to when they feel lonely, insecure, or uncertain about their life. But the moment you start elevating, the moment you start growing, the moment you start realizing your worth, here they come. Because the thought of losing access to you is more terrifying than the thought of stepping up. And don't be fooled. It's not that they suddenly love you more. It's that they're afraid of losing what was familiar to them. You were their rock, their peace, their anchor in the storm. And now that they see you slipping away, now that they see you smiling without them, glowing without them, healing without them, they panic. Because in their mind, you were supposed to always be there, waiting, available, ready to take them back whenever they decided to return. But here's what they didn't realize. You're not the same person anymore. What used to move you no longer moves you. Love is too much. You used to. Then what happens, it pulls you back. Let me tell you something. Familiarity is not love. Just because someone is used to you doesn't mean they value you. Just because they feel comfortable with you doesn't mean they're willing to grow with you. See, some people want you because you are predictable, not because they are intentional. They want you because they know how to manipulate your kindness. They want you because they know how to pull at your heartstrings. They know exactly what to say, exactly when to say it, and exactly how to say it to make you second guess your progress. But baby, the devil is a liar. God didn't pull you out of that cycle just for you to walk right back into it. God didn't give you peace just for you to let chaos back in. God didn't heal you just for you to go back to the very thing that broke you. So let them miss what's familiar. Let them wrestle with the fact that they lost access to you. Let them sit in the reality that you are no longer available for the same games, the same cycles, the same empty promises. Because what's behind you cannot compare to what God has ahead of you. Oh, somebody better hear me today. They thought you would always be available. See, some people move through life thinking they can treat you any kind of way and you'll always be there. They believe that no matter how they disappear, how they neglect you, how they take you for granted, when they come back, you'll still be standing there with open arms waiting. But let me tell you something. You are not a waiting room. You are not some revolving door that people can walk in and out of as they please. You are not a backup plan, a second option, or a fallback when things don't work out with someone else. What they didn't realize is that you were operating from a place of love and loyalty, not weakness. You were patient, not passive. You were committed, not complacent. You were willing to fight for them, but you were never supposed to fight for your own worth. And the moment you decided to stop chasing, stop begging, stop allowing the same disrespect, something shifted. And now they don't know what to do. See, they got too comfortable with your presence. They thought your love was unconditional access instead of a privilege. They assumed that no matter how many times they ignored your needs, dismissed your feelings, or failed to prioritize you, you would always be right there, waiting. But let me tell you something. When a good person finally walks away, they don't come back. Now they see you moving different, they see you setting boundaries, they see you not answering their calls like you used to, they see you not reacting to their excuses like you used to, and it's confusing them because they never thought they'd see the day when you chose yourself. But here's the truth, your availability was a gift, not a guarantee. The problem is they never thought you would get tired. They never thought you would stop pouring. They never thought you would reach your breaking point. But every strong person has a limit. Every giver eventually learns that they cannot pour from an empty cup. Every heart that has been broken enough times eventually stops giving chances. And let me tell you something. You deserve to be chosen the first time. You deserve to be loved without conditions, without games, without manipulation. You deserve someone who values you while they have you, not just when they lose you. So now here they come, talking about I miss you, talking about I was going through something, talking about I didn't realize what I had. But let me ask you this. If you have to leave for them to see your value, do they really value you at all? God didn't create you to be a placeholder in someone's life while they figure out what they want. You are a blessing, a treasure, a masterpiece. And if they couldn't see it before, don't let them think they can just walk back in like nothing happened. Because the version of you that tolerated less than you deserve no longer exists. Oh, somebody better catch this. They're testing if they still have access. See, some people don't reach out because they miss you. They don't come back because they've had a revelation about their love for you. No, they come back to see if the door is still unlocked. They come back to test the waters, to see if they can still pull on your heartstrings, to find out if you are still available for the same cycle that God has already. It's not about love, it's about control, it's about ego. It's about reassurance, because as long as they know you're still an option, they don't feel the urgency to change. As long as they can still call you late at night, as long as they can still send that "I miss you" text and get a response, as long as they can still pop back into your life whenever they please, they have no reason to grow. And let me tell you something, your healing is being tested. Because the truth is, it's not just about them trying to come back. It's about whether or not you let them. God will allow certain people to show up again just to see if you're really free, just to see if you've really learned your lesson, just to see if you've really moved on. Because the enemy knows you love them. He knows you once saw a future with them. He knows they once had a deep place in your heart. And so he will use familiarity as a trap, because he knows it's harder to let go of something that once felt like home. But hear me today, access to you is a privilege, not a right. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Access to you is a privilege. You are not required to entertain people who treated you like an afterthought. You are not obligated to go back to a cycle that broke you just because it feels familiar. Just because someone is knocking at the door does not mean you have to let them in. They'll try everything, they'll apologize, they'll bring up the good memories, they'll act like they've changed. But the question isn't have they changed, the real question is have you changed? Because when you've really healed, when you've really outgrown a situation, when you've really stepped into your God-given power, what once tempted you won't even faze you anymore. The same words that used to make you weak will no longer have an effect. The same empty promises that once got you to stay will no longer have a hold, because you'll know you're not that person anymore. So let them test if they still have access. Let them see that the door is no longer open. Let them realize that what they once took for granted is no longer available. Because once you've healed, once you've grown, once you've learned your worth, going back is no longer an option. Oh, you better hear me today, because God is testing you. See, you thought this was about them, but it's not. This is about you. This is about your growth, your healing, your faith, and your ability to walk away from what no longer serves you. Because sometimes when we ask God for strength, he doesn't just give it to us. He gives us an opportunity to prove we've grown. You prayed for healing, and now here comes the person who broke you. You prayed for peace, and now here comes the chaos you left behind. You prayed for a new season, and now here comes an old distraction trying to pull you back. This is not just a test of their intentions. This is a test of your transformation. Because if they can still come back into your life and move you the way they used to, then have you really healed? If they can still whisper the same sweet nothings and pull you right back into the same cycle, then have you really grown? If you're still entertaining the same patterns, still making the same excuses, still hoping for them to change, then are you really ready for what God has next? Because let me tell you something, before God blesses you, he will test you. God wants to know, have you learned? Have you grown? Are you truly ready for the next level, or will you keep running back to what's familiar just because it's comfortable? And listen, this is not about bitterness. This is not about proving a point to them. This is about honoring the healing that God gave you. Because when God pulls you out of something, he doesn't do it halfway. He doesn't set you free just for you to walk back into bondage. He doesn't restore your heart just for you to hand it back to the same person who broke it. Your future is too valuable to be wasted on people who had a front row seat to your love and still mishandled it. So when they show up, when they test the waters, when they try to see if they still have access, stand firm. Remember what you prayed for. Remember the nights you cried. Remember how hard it was to walk away in the first place. Remember the peace you've gained since they left. Because if you fail this test, you'll find yourself right back in the same cycle, delaying the blessings that God has waiting for you. This is your moment. This is your confirmation. This is God saying, I need to know if you're really ready. So choose you. Choose your healing. Choose your future. Choose the doors that God is opening, not the ones he already closed. Because when you show God that you've truly learned the lesson, when you show him that you won't go back to what he freed you from, that's when he releases the blessings that have been waiting for you all along. Somebody better hear me today. You have outgrown where you came from. The only reason they're coming back is because they see the favor on your life, but favor ain't free. So the next time they come knocking, you tell them, I'm not who I used to be. I'm walking in my purpose. I'm standing in my power. And what's behind me cannot compare to what God has ahead of me. Somebody give God some praise right there.